With the full moon just past, a month from today on the 3rd of March will be a lunar eclipse, and we have some exciting updates in the TPE web app that I would love to show you today. It's a moon simulator that's going to let you explore all sorts of things about the moon and help you plan your lunar photos. Let's jump in. Okay, let's start here in London. We are on the 4th February, so tomorrow. I have the time set to the afternoon, 5:22 in the afternoon. And the moon, as you can see, is below the horizon at this time, 25 degrees down. Let me advance the time slider to after moonrise later in that evening. And you may notice that we have this new feature up here. This is the new moon simulator, which I'm going to give you a quick tour of today. First of all, it only appears when the moon is above the horizon, or above about 5 degrees, within 5 degrees of the horizon. And then you'll see it pop up. So let me just go back. It disappears. I'm advancing here. There's the moon simulator. There's the moon. So obviously you can see here you can minimize it, make it small, just click to expand again, or you can expand it to full screen, and that's where we're going to spend most of our time here. So there it is, the moon simulator. You can zoom in and out. I'm using 2 fingers here on the trackpad to do that. You can move in and out. You can zoom in quite a long way and look at this glorious detail on the limb here. This is a waning moon, a few days after full moon, and you can see the nice shadow, the lighting, a few labels on a few of the key lunar features. So we've got some Apollo landing sites in yellow, some of the mare in blue, and some craters and other features in white there. And you can control the labels, you can toggle those on and off up here. And if I then just advance this time slider, you'll see how it updates and rotates. And this is basically what you would see as the observer standing in London looking up at the moon. That's what this zenith up setting here means. There are some other settings I'll show you briefly in a moment. You can, let me come back a little bit here, you can advance 5 minutes at a time, just to quickly move ahead there. You can also skip ahead a day at a time, and that's quite interesting to see how the lunar phase evolves through the month. And in this panel, it's also showing me a vertical field of view. That's based on the vertical field of view on this browser size window, and it shows the 35mm equivalent focal length to get a moon that large in a frame this tall, essentially. So if you zoom out, you'll see that number is adjusting, and when you get down to sort of the 600mm level that I suppose many photographers might have, it's still relatively small in the frame. Gives you a sense of how big the moon is in the sky and in your frame. Shows you the distance at any point in time. You'll see that that number changes as you adjust the time of day. And it gives you a relative size for the moon. So this is saying that at this point on time, February 6th, it's 3% smaller than average in terms of its angular width, if you will. There's also some playback options here, so we'll come back. You can play through moonrise. I'll go 300 times real speed. Let's just watch that happen. Here it comes. It rises. It's rotating slightly, you can see that, and you can stop that. This is particularly interesting when we come to talk about lunar eclipses. You'll also notice that there was a pitch and an azimuth gauge up here. You might be familiar with those style of gauges from our iOS app, where we have them in the augmented reality view. If I click forward, or let's go back here to start of the day, and just rotate and watch those gauges, you can see that that azimuth gauge, due south, it's showing, correlates with the little mini map view here, which shows the moon pretty much due south at this time. So that's lunar transit around 3:30 in the morning that day. You can get back to the map like that, and then just toggle between them as you will. So let's look at another location for the lunar eclipse that I mentioned that's coming up. We're going to go down to Mazatlan, I think. Mazatlan in Mexico. And you may recall that a lot of people traveled there for the solar eclipse in April 2024. We're going to move straight ahead here to the 3rd of March 26, and here you can see that there is a total eclipse. So let's just start at lunar transit just after midnight local time, and let's just jump into the simulator here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. You may notice these two rings. These are the shadow rings. These are projections of Earth's shadow out to the distance of the moon. And if I play this forward, let's just watch what happens. This is how the shadows are moving relative to the moon, and very shortly you will see that we're moving into the lunar eclipse. So as soon as we get past that yellow ring, this is the penumbral eclipse. The yellow ring is the Earth's penumbra, and let me slow it down a little bit here so you can watch in a bit more detail. Take the labels off. Let's just watch as we go into the partial eclipse. I'm going to zoom in so you can really see this play out. And in partial eclipse, this is bright, this gets dark, you don't really see it. It's very hard to discern it at all with the eye or the camera while you're in partial eclipse. We keep it a little bit visible just so you can keep a sense in your mind as you watch this of what's actually going on. And we're progressing through the partial eclipse. You can see the umbral magnitude is climbing here. That's an estimate of the magnitude of the eclipse at this point in time. Let's just speed up a little bit, and then I'll slow it down again as we come into totality so you can watch that. Here we go. Tail end of partial, and now as we go into total, here we get that so-called blood moon effect. The deep red, orange colors that you see in the moon during totality. And you might notice that this portion of the moon is clearly brighter. It's closer to the edge of the shadow circle. And towards the center of the umbra, things are darker. It also happens to correspond with where these darker areas of the moon's surface lie, but generally those are darker. This has been calibrated against a series of photographs of lunar eclipses I've collected over the years. And you have to get a long way inside the umbra before you no longer see any of this sort of brightening near the edge of the umbra. So let's zoom out and we'll let it continue, and it plays on. But hopefully you can see this is a fantastic tool for checking what's going to happen in the lunar eclipse at your location. You can see the sky brightening here. We're into twilight, and we're going to see the moon set. There it goes. So it sets at about 6:30, and if I just back up a little bit here, let's go 5 minutes back. There we go. There, that's a good spot. You can see we're still in the penumbral eclipse. That's very hard to discern in a relatively bright morning sky. You can see the sun is essentially rising at this point, and the moon is just above the horizon, way off here in this direction to the west. So hopefully you see that gives you a great overview of how this eclipse will play out in any location you want. So you set the map wherever you want, you can see how the eclipse will play out for that spot in the world. You can click directly through to any of the penumbral or umbral contact times like that and just see the geometry of the eclipse. U3, U4, that's the end of totality. Here's the start of totality. There's maximum eclipse. Zoom in, zoom out. So there you go. That's the lunar eclipse simulation that we have within this new moon simulator. Let's come back to London briefly, and I'll show you this last little feature here with the zenith up options. And here we have the moon overnight. It's the waning moon on February 4th again. If I click zenith up, it will toggle to lunar north up. Now this is an interesting view. This is not what you see as an observer if you were looking straight up. Now we're rotating the moon so that it is the lunar north pole that's at the center. And we had these little indicators. That's what's called the origin of the selenographic coordinate system. And if you're really into studying the moon, you might be aware that there's this phenomenon called libration of the moon, where it moves on its, in terms of the face that is presented to Earth within certain limits, and that's called the libration. And when lunar north up is selected, we see the libration in latitude and longitude here in degrees, and that's really reflecting how far off the center of the moon's disk the origin lies at any point in time. Now just watch as I rotate back and forth. You might notice, you see how that's moving slightly. If I enlarge it, it becomes a little bit more obvious. There we go. That little sort of wobble in the moon, that's the libration. That is accurately modeled in the simulator as well. So if you're very interested in how the moon moves and how to capture some of the features that only appear in certain libration conditions, you can explore that here. There's one more orientation you can select, and that's celestial north up. So that means that up on the screen is celestial north up. And you can see here also the position angle and the parallactic angle are indicated. Now sometimes if you're very much into the lunar orientation, it's interesting to see those values, and it means that if you've tried to correct the rotation of the moon in an image that you've taken and you weren't quite sure whether the camera was perfectly straight, you can use this as a reference, check the parallactic angle and straighten up your photos to get them accurate so that its observer zenith is up. So those are some of the more advanced features. Last thing we will look at, I'm going to switch the labels back on, and I'm going to move forward a few days. That should do it. I'm going to zoom in, and I just wanted to point out a couple of features that moon photographers quite enjoy trying to capture. One is the Lunar X and the Lunar V. These are two features on the surface of the moon, which at a quarter moon, so we're a little bit shy of quarter moon here, 53% illumination. Let me go forward maybe one more day. Yeah, we sort of missed it here, but they catch the light and you'll see a little X in your image, or a V if you photograph this area here. And there are other features on the limb like the Apennine hills here that are labeled. And you can explore, it's not a super detailed atlas, but there are some of the key features. If you're just getting into moon photography, you might enjoy exploring this, learning a bit more about the geography of the moon and planning out some shots that allow you to capture particular features during particular phases of the moon. So that's a quick introduction to the new moon simulator in the TPE web app. Please let us know what you think. We hope you like it and find it useful in planning your moon shots. If you'd like to hear more, please consider subscribing to the channel and get a notification when we post new videos. I'll be doing some new content on the solar eclipse simulator, which has also had some helpful upgrades, particularly if you're into exploring different locations for the upcoming eclipse in Iceland and Spain this August. We've got some very neat new features that will let you really get a detailed understanding of what you might see. So watch out for that. Thanks for tuning in.